Welcome everybody to JetLag. Today I am joined with Zach from the Nolan Hockey Podcast. We do a podcast together with his brother Carter, also a part of the Nolan Hockey Podcast, and Jake from Peg City Hockey. So welcome, Zach. Just maybe introduce yourself, give them a little rundown on what you do over there on the channel.
Yeah. So hello everyone. My name is Zachary Nolan. I with my brother do the Nolan Hockey Podcast. We call it a podcast. It's not really a podcast. Like we totally bungled naming it. It's just a YouTube channel. We do game reactions for every single Jets game of the season. We've been doing that now for about 2.5 years. We'll cover an assortment of other topics too when we're bored and pretty much in the off season and stuff like that. But yeah, mostly Winnipeg Jets themed videos. Yeah, and I've known Jackson for I want to say how long is it now?
About
Like
I'd say about a year or so ish now,
it's
maybe a little
close,
less
isn't it?
since I started YouTube now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, no, so we've got Zach on with me today. And I guess I should introduce the show since this is episode 1. Don't know why I didn't do that in the beginning, but essentially what JetLag is going to be, it's going to be me just talking with other Winnipeg Jets creators, whether that be on YouTube, popular personalities on Twitter, Instagram, anything like that. And just talking about important events throughout the Jets season. I don't know how frequent these are going to be, but when there's a little bit of a lull, I think that it could be kind of fun. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or whatever, you can't see my face, obviously, but this is the first time I believe that my face is on YouTube. So, I mean, hey, if you've been really waiting for that, congratulations. Today's the day. But enough about me. We are going to talk about the Winnipeg Jets a little bit and what is going on right now. Currently, we have a little bit of a lull in the season, I'd say. We've got the All-Star break coming up, and the Jets do not play for 11 days as of making this recording. So, Zach, we've got Josh Morrissey and Connor Hellebuyck in the All-Star game. As good as those guys have been this season, the Jets have just been a fantastic team all around, and obviously has a lot to do with them. With Josh Morrissey, what do you think has been the biggest, you know, piece to making him what he is this year compared to last year?
I think with Josh Morrissey, one of the biggest things, and I don't want to like kind of make a cop out and say, oh, his confidence is playing better, because that's such a full answer that people will give all the time. However, I do want to point to the fact that when Rick Bowness was assigned as head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, he took the time to meet with Josh Morrissey, and he told Josh Morrissey straight to his face, I expect you to be in the Norris conversation this year. And that was a huge moment for Josh Morrissey, who's kind of been struggling the past few years just to kind of have a spot as to where he is on this team. Most notably, this team's identity on defense has bounced around from guys like Jacob Trouba to Dustin Byfuglien to even Neil Pionk as of late. So him finally being able to play a game style that almost empowers his playing ability, like what Rick Bowness has been talking about with incorporating offense from the defense and giving him those minutes to work with, has really been a huge contributing factor to this turnaround. Also, too, and it does beg repeating, his personal life really wasn't always in the best place, especially over the last couple of years, obviously with the passing of his father. He's finally had time to really sit with that, and I feel like he's finally had time to grow through that difficult point in his life, shall we say. And I just feel like all of the stars are aligning for Morrissey right now.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, Josh is having a career year, already smashed career high in points, and is just night in, night out, one of the most exciting Jets to watch. Connor Hellebuyck, I don't think we need to talk a ton about, really. He is just fantastic, as always, Connor Vesnabuck. We'll see if he's able to bring home the Vezina Trophy or not this year, but nonetheless, both at the All-Star game this year. And we await to see how they do in the skills competition and the actual game. So that should be a lot of fun. But we are going to talk about the more maybe pressing deadline coming up here. March 3rd is the trade deadline, and the Winnipeg Jets names have been scattered around the league a lot with some forwards that are maybe on the market right now, or maybe being thrown out there, names that could be traded, like a Timo Meier, like a Max Domi. And we're just going to talk about that quick now. So I just want to hear from you. What is your philosophy right now? If you were the Winnipeg Jets general manager, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, what do you think that this Jets team needs to do? Do you think they need to go big? Do you think they need to add depth?
It's interesting. So like what I feel like with this team's maybe what this team's philosophy is, but also more what this team's track record history is that the Winnipeg Jets will try their best to get a main talent. However, we have noticed as well too that there is a hesitancy there. Like for example, I would love to see Timo Meier in a Jets jersey, but Timo Meier plus Kevin Cheveldayoff, the math struggles for me because I'm like, Kevin, get on the phone. Kevin, get on the phone. Kevin, wake up and get on the phone. It's like yelling at Lou Lamoriello. He doesn't do anything half the time till it's almost too late. And I would love to, like, I feel like with the defense, like with the goaltending tandem they have, there was a rumor going around that the Jets were interested in goaltending. I assume that, like, of course, it's probably for backup positioning just to stabilize that. Personally, I don't really feel like if you want to throw a 4th or 5th round pick at James Reimer, go for it. Like, because then, maybe the apocalypse situation where Connor Hellebuyck gets injured down the stretch or something like that, and then you can like alleviate that pressure. But personally, I don't buy into that at all. The defense is a different story. I think there are pieces that you can definitely move on from, but I also think there's a hesitancy there to move on from guys that, for Chevy, who have actually taken the time to want to invest in this city and in this hockey team. Neil Pionk's the name I see the most. I feel like there's almost a consensus that Logan Stanley's on his way out because he just doesn't fit anywhere in this scheme, especially with the delightful performances by Dylan Samberg, I have to say. And even goddamn Kyle Capobianco. I'll take Kyle Capobianco over Logan Stanley any day of the week. And then in terms of forward, I feel like that's the biggest things that we're going to see change for the Winnipeg Jets come trade deadline. I think they're looking for a guy who can play almost the middle 6 or at least move a guy from the top 6 down to the middle 6. And I see that as the Jets wanting more options in terms of goal scoring. We look at how well the depth has contributed in offense this year, and it's been actually very seen. However, at the same time, I think it's not been a reliance for the Jets. It hasn't been like a given. And I think going into the playoffs, the Jets want to, should they make it there, of course, they want to have as many weapons as they can, as many options as they can on all 4 lines. So I would definitely see that the main focus is probably going to be retooling or resupplying, I want to say, the offensive core.
No, for sure. And I agree with what you're kind of saying with the defense. And, you can say what you want about them this year. The penalty kill is fantastic, and the Jets are one of the better teams as of, this season in goal differential, pardon me. But I do think that, the defense is not perfect, but it wouldn't shock me if Kevin just kind of maybe adds a veteran guy in there if we are to move on from guys like maybe a Logan Stanley, maybe Ville Heinola, even Dylan Samberg, if the deal is right, if it's a Timo Meier-esque deal, you're probably losing one of those 3 guys in that deal. So it wouldn't shock me if he tries to add to the depth on defense. But definitely with forward, it does need a lot of retooling. I'm not a big fan of having Carson Kuhlman as my 3rd line right winger in the playoffs. I don't think that gets it done. As good as Kuhlman has been this year, at times in different situations, I don't think he's that guy. On Colorado last year, is he even on their roster? Probably not, right?
He was on Boston last year, wasn't he? He'd be
on
Boston.
No. I'm just saying if Colorado, that Cup team is Carson Kuhlman even on the roster, or is he like down with the Black Aces?
I would argue that, and that's the thing with Carson Kuhlman. Like, don't get me wrong, appreciate
just in general with the bottom 6 forwards.
He doesn't add anything.
No, he doesn't. He really is just a guy out there, but put in the right situation, Coleman's fine, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying we do need, or the Jets do need here to pick up some depth, and I wouldn't, obviously wouldn't mind getting a Timo Meier deal. And I think the math does work out if Kevin Cheveldayoff is willing to pick up the phone and make a big move. And he said in his press conference, if the big move or, you know, a substantial upgrade to the team is available, hey, he's open to do it. So I would love if he sticks to his words there and you know, brought home the big fish this year. We will see what happens. I don't know. I'm not ruling it out because you know, obviously Timo Meier, buddy with Ehlers. We'll see what happens going forward there. But one
Well,
guy that I want to talk.
did
Sorry.
it concern you after that meeting and then listening yesterday and being like, oh, I hear the Jets are interested in Nick Ritchie and Max Domi?
Well, yeah, well, that's where I was going to segue to. You know, I do think that even with a secondary move, like if Max Domi is a guy that we pick up, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, he's not bad.
If we pick up someone bigger, because what I'm looking at here is what the Jets are going to look like heading into the playoffs, and they cannot have both Perfetti and Wheeler in the top six, especially Blake Wheeler. I don't know if he's going to make it into next year, honestly. He just looks like he's fighting his body right now. He's probably a fine third liner, I'd say. Like whoever he plays with on the third line, I think in a different role he could, you know, continue having a successful season. But ever since he got injured, he has not been the same guy, and I do think that the Jets do need to really look at adding a top six guy to make, you know, that top six bona fide and make a proper top nine. If you're looking for secondary scoring, I think that Max Domi is a fantastic option. I'm not super sold on Jonathan Toews at this point in his career. I feel like a lot of the arguments that people bring up is, you know, hey, he's a winner and he's done, you know, a lot of great things in his career. But that was 5 to 7 years ago at this point. What has Jonathan Toews done lately? Is he the guy that's going to push you into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs at that? I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Max Domi does bring a little bit of, you know, that sandpaper. He's a pest. I don't mind Max Domi for a third liner for about the same or less price as a Jonathan Toews. I wouldn't be totally out on that, but I just want to hear your thoughts on the whole Toews and Max Domi situation.
So regarding Toews and Max Domi, like honestly, I understand the, shall we say, sentimentality towards having Jonathan Toews, which is hilarious because where the hell was this sentimentality when Cody Eakin showed up in a Winnipeg Jets? Don't know where that went. Also, funny noting the last Winnipegger we brought in here was quick to run out of this city. But like it's funny, like obviously if I pick one or the other, I'd have to pick Max Domi. Obviously, Max Domi is like the top point getter on the Chicago Blackhawks right now. However, because of how bad Chicago is, it doesn't raise his value too highly, and that's good. If I'm going after Jonathan Toews, I'm going after Jonathan Toews with the consensus knowing that Toews is not the only guy you're bringing in. Like, instead of bringing in the proverbial big fish, you're taking pieces away. Like, honestly, would I take both? Yeah, probably I would, because it's not terrible. Like, obviously, like I look at Jonathan Toews, I'm like, you honestly could slot in on our fourth. I look at Max Domi, middle six. But I wouldn't like if Jonathan Toews is a Winnipeg Jet, I don't want it to be a one or the other thing. I want more than just him coming to the team, because you need enough of a shakeup to reinvigorate the rest of the offense to play for more at this point.
No, for sure. And you know, that even brings me to a guy like a Nick Ritchie. How far does Nick Ritchie really push this team? I don't know if he's the guy that I'm really like crossing my fingers hoping the Jets trade for. He is probably better than like half the depth that they have, which is, you know, sad.
How
But
many points?
I did a video on him yesterday. He has 9 goals and 21 points this year, so 12 assists. So he's not having a bad year. However, when you think of Nick Ritchie, you're probably thinking more defensive, you know, minded
Yes,
player, bigger body guy, and he
better
does
right.
absolutely none of that this season. So, it's kind of nice that we have Rick Bowness, and if he can teach Mark Scheifele how to play defense, I mean, he can really teach anyone how to play defense. So, I mean, hey, if Nick Ritchie comes here, maybe he's a sneaky addition into the bottom six. I don't think he'd be that expensive. Maybe a fourth or a third, maybe throw in a low end prospect or something like there.
Well,
But
like I think I think with those, honestly, it's almost you almost look at that just because there's the assumption that in the NHL you can't go through a full playoffs without getting through those injuries. Like for example, like even Colorado looked like a war torn team by the end of that season.
Mm-hmm.
Like guys getting getting their feet ice so they could slip them into skates is horrifying. But like, yeah, like obviously I don't see these guys as main talent, shall we say. But if there are guys that have to step up in the roster given on a late playoff push, I'm okay with that. But again, it's not the main thing that I want to be focusing on.
For sure, for sure. And one last thing that I want to bring up here before we head into, you know, maybe what you would like to see and everything. One thing that I wonder about with Kevin Cheveldayoff is, how sneaky he can be at times with, bringing in Paul Stastny in the 2017-18 season. He really wasn't on the board. It wasn't really on anybody's trade radar. I wonder if, maybe a Timo Meier deal doesn't materialize or something like that. If he does go off the board a little bit. And I saw some people talking about it on Twitter, like a Troy Terry or a Pavel Buchnevich, guys that maybe could be available.
I thought Pavel. I did not see Troy. I don't think they'll get
And I
Troy.
didn't even
I
think
love
about Troy
Troy,
Terry,
but
but Troy Terry kind of makes sense if they're willing to kind of make, a Meyer-esque deal, but maybe the Meyer situation doesn't work. I mean, hey, Troy Terry would be pretty cool, and just this isn't
I
like
love Scary
anywhere.
Terry. Love
Scary
Scary
Terry
Terry.
would be cool. We'd be cool as a Jet, and I thought that was a pretty interesting take there. And
Ooh.
I wonder if Troy Terry may be available with guys like Zegras and other young stars there in Anaheim looking to get paid soon. Maybe Scary Terry is on the block. Maybe he's, one of those weird additions. But Pavel Buchnevich as well, probably the Blues' best player right now, I'd have to say, honestly, at the moment. Um, that's just my take on it. I'm a big Pavel Buchnevich fan. When he's healthy, he's struggled with injury a little bit this season, but we will have to, see what happens there. Maybe one of those guys come up the board a little bit as the trade deadline nears. But yeah, I think with all that said, I just want to see what is your ideal look for the Jets? What is their biggest? Who is your ideal player who's not named Timo Meier?
Who's not named Timo Meyer? I looked through this and I'm annoyed that you said Pavel Buchnevich because he was on my board too. I had him on my little wish board. I looked at it over a lot and I was like, do I want Ryan O'Reilly? Maybe. Do I was Scary Terry on my board? No, because I wouldn't think we. Then again, I didn't think we'd draft Cole Perfetti either. So what the fuck do I know? But I'd say your ideal. Oh God. If St. Louis is sober enough to believe that they are not contenders, which they're not, you take Pavel Buchnevich. You then take maybe fuck it, Nick Ritchie, and take
Mhm.
Pavel and Ritchie. Or if you can, you take Pavel and Domi, but I don't
Okay.
know if the this work. And then you boost your primary scoring and your secondary scoring to the point where you pretty much have enough offense to get you over a theoretical playoffs, and then the rest of the puzzle just needs to be solved along the way.
No, for sure. And what I think the Jets' big need is, and obviously they've been linked to Jonathan Toews, they've been linked to Max Domi. I think they really are looking for that 3C to push Adam Lowry's line, maybe to just that, wet blanket shutdown line. I would not mind that at all, because Adam Lowry's good, but obviously I think he's more of a better defensive minded 4C. But yeah, if I totally agree with you. The Jets do need to find some secondary scoring for sure, and definitely need one more big fish. Pavel Buchnevich would be a lot of fun as a Winnipeg Jet. And, even if the Jets have to do some cap gymnastics, throw a fourth at Arizona just to take half the cap for a guy like Toews or a guy like Domi, I don't think that's the worst situation either. But with all that said, guys, I think that's where we're going to end it. Zach, is there anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, you could check out our yeah, I suppose so. You can check out our YouTube channel at NolanHockeyPodcast. Pretty close to 1.3 thousand subs, so that's nice. From there, if you go on any of our videos, we have our links to all of our socials and stuff. If you ever want to hit up me or my brother. We're usually pretty civil about most things, so there's always that. Yeah, no, not nothing. And check out the Prairie Puck podcast.
Check out the Prairie Puck podcast where you can find me, Zach, Jake, and Carter at all times. Yeah. But yeah, that is going to end the first episode of JetLag. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. This will be, again, one of those sporadic type series where every once in a while I might have something up. I'm not sure how often I will be posting these. But yeah, with all that said, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Go Jets, go. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.